Let me introduce myself. My name is Ben. I have been at XR Health since late last year, and I have a background in health sciences. It is a pleasure for me to introduce to you our lead physiotherapist, Tung, who will be the main speaker for today. Over to you, Tung.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Before we get stuck into it, I just wanted to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We also pay our respect to the elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation and extend that respect to all other Indigenous Australians. So a little bit about myself. If you weren't with us for the first webinar, my name is Tung. I'm the lead physio for XR Health. So I've been a physio for, I think, like 9 or 10 years now, and with XR Health for going on 4 years. Really have loved the role. That's why I've been with XR for so long. Like outside of work, I play a lot of games. I love technology. I build computers. I build keyboards. Like my life is just technology outside of work, and of course my family. But yeah, it was an amazing opportunity to combine, my interest in technology and my career. And yeah, I've been with X ever since. It's been amazing. Little bit about XR Health. So, like I said, if you weren't with us for that first one, want us to quickly introduce our company to you guys. So we're actually an international company. We've got the Australian team, the US team in Israel, and in Spain. And you sort of like roughly divide it up into one side of it where we actually develop the products, so the games themselves that go on the headset, the platform and everything, and then the clinic side of things. So what I do day to day, seeing clients and helping them achieve their goals. For this evening, we're going to cover up a few different things. So what are some of the common co-diagnoses and the potential physical challenges for autistic individuals? How physio as a whole can help in these areas? And then more specifically, what are the benefits of using virtual reality for physiotherapy over more traditional physiotherapy? Oh, and before I forget, along the way, please pop in your questions. Ben will monitor for us and we'll do questions and answers at the end. So the more common co-diagnoses that I tend to see, being the lead physio for the last 4 years with XR Health, common co-diagnoses for autistic individuals. The number one has to be hypermobility. We see a lot of hypermobility, and sometimes a little bit more specifically, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, so a genetic condition that requires genetic testing to get that diagnosis. Along with that, we also see a lot of individuals with low muscle tone. So that'll look like, decreased posture control and core control, as well as decreased strength, as well as decreased coordination we see a lot of. So that might appear like a little bit of clumsiness or bumping into things and tripping over their feet. And we'll get into all of these in a little bit more detail next. So I certainly spend a lot of time on hypermobility just because I see so much of it. Now, the thing to remember about hypermobility, it's more of a descriptor rather than a diagnosis. So this person is hypermobile rather than being diagnosed with hypermobility. And that joint hypermobility could be in one joint or multiple joints. And there's a few different tests that we do as physios where we tick off those different joints and check them to see if they are hypermobile or not. And something that's quite common that I've seen is certain individuals are hypermobile in certain joints, and then those other joints in their body, they're actually really quite stiff, most likely as like a compensation to that hypermobility. So some of the ways that we test are, can you bend your thumb down and be able to touch your forearm. So I can't do it, don't have the hypermobility there. Does my elbow hyperextend beyond 180 degrees? Same thing for the knees. And there's a few other indicators for things like, the shoulders as well. With Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, more specifically, that is a connective tissue disorder. So what does that mean? It's an issue with the collagen within our tissue, and collagen is one of those things which is in all of our tissue. So all of our muscle fibers, all of our cartilage, our tendons, everything. And what happens is the connective tissue isn't quite as strong as those without EDS. So it's got all of the indicators of hypermobility, but even more so. Like, it's just a lot more significant because it's the entire system. All of the connective tissue is affected. And then within EDS, there's varying degrees of how severe it might be. And something that we keep in mind from a physio perspective is it requires even slower progression in comparison to those with just hypermobility, because we have to allow that tissue to have the time at that new load, that new exercise, before we move on to the next one. So what are some of the things that hypermobile people feel? There's that constant strain on those hypermobile joints and constant strain on those muscles because they're trying to hold that joint together. So if they're constantly having to work so hard compared to those without hypermobility, they're going to feel really tired all the time, like low energy. And along with that is going to be pain. It's really uncomfortable having joints go beyond what they're designed for and hitting that end of range all the time. So, say with an elbow, instead of having, soft tissue stop at that 180 degrees, the thing that is stopping it a lot of the time is that end of range and the joint just hitting like cartilage on cartilage, or sometimes the bone against the other bone in order to stop it from going any further. And that's really quite uncomfortable to constantly feel that. But why is it that we see so many autistic people with hypermobility and or EDS? Not 100% understood as to why there's that link, but what we do see from a statistics point of view is that up to 80% of autistic individuals experience hypermobility. So a lot of the experts are sort of thinking, theorizing that it might be genetic, and that any difficulties with processing sensory information might also contribute. So excuse me, an example might be, we see a lot of people who don't enjoy the experiencing those sensations of, being tired or being sore or being sweaty and that sort of thing. And sometimes they also don't feel or are aware of certain things that are going on in their body. Like, it's quite common that I ask my clients, how, say after an exercise, how do you feel after that? And majority of people just say, I don't know. And it's quite difficult to look introspectively and think about what it is that they're feeling. And, if they don't have that awareness of how they're feeling, then they might not be aware that they're approaching that end of range for their joint. And then they blow past that end of range, and then, it locks out, they hyperextend and feel the discomfort of that joint hyperextending. So that might also be contributing to the hypermobility there. So yeah, super common thing that I see my clients for is hypermobility. Now, in addition to hypermobility, those other things that I mentioned earlier, which we're going to get into next. And it's kind of like chicken or the egg. Which one came first? Or is it, just the entire picture is that we have all of those other things: muscle tone and coordination. So that low muscle tone, the weakness in the muscle, and what we commonly see from that observation is that really just slouched posture. It's quite tiring to sit up in that good posture all the time if you have weakness in your muscles. So that poor posture, decreased core control, and just wanting to like lounge about and flip flop every which way. And it's difficult maintaining that control all the time. It takes a lot of practice. And that's when we also go back to that that idea of the sensation of being strained, of exercising, being uncomfortable and not wanting to have that sensation, potentially leading to an individual not participating in as many sports and things, and then to therefore develop that muscle tone, develop that core control. And so for those individuals, we also see difficulty completing functional tasks. And that could be, something that's quite difficult, like I mentioned, sports and things, or it could be something that's relatively simple, like walking 100 meters, or, walking at the shops for an hour or two, or even helping like mum and dad bring in some heavy shopping. I've met a lot of kids where they help with that and they can do one trip and then they're really tired and exhausted. Super common. The other thing being that decreased coordination. So like I mentioned earlier, individuals might be clumsy. They might drop things that they're holding, or they might bump into things as they're walking around the house and not notice like the door frame or the side table. And for those individuals with decreased coordination, they find it difficult to play sports. A lot of sports require really great hand-eye coordination or foot-eye coordination. And then again, difficulties with those functional activities. And all of this is that really big picture. Which one comes first? The low muscle tone is going to affect the coordination side of things. And then it's also going to affect hypermobility. So, which one came first, or is it all there together? Is there that genetic component for all of it? We're not really too sure if that's the reason why it's there, but this is what we're seeing is autistic individuals commonly have hypermobility, low muscle tone, and decreased coordination. So the next step is, after we've identified these common things, is how do we help these people get better and improve in these areas so that they can complete those functional tasks, so they can participate in sports and all of those other things that they want to participate in. So from the physio perspective, the main thing is going to be strength training. And a lot of people go to any other physio and they're also going to go with that same approach of, we need to strengthen those muscles to increase that muscle tone so that we get better posture, so that we get better core control, and that'll help with everything else. We need more strength to help prevent the hyperextension, to help reduce the hypermobility, because if we can't rely on the tendons and the cartilage and all of those things to provide the support for our joints, the thing that's going to help with that is going to be our muscle strength. So how does that then differ from, say, traditional strength training? Like whenever I say strength training to someone, they always imagine people at the gym grabbing weights or weights at home and just lifting weights, doing like shoulder press and all those things. And that's all well and good, but what I've found is you can't go that hard that quickly. Even a few kilos is quite significant. And that's what I've found. The majority of physios and private clinics out there, they make the mistake of starting a little bit too hard. And like I mentioned earlier, with the hypermobility and EDS, we have to progress really slowly. The theory about strength training is you put the muscle under a certain load, you spend a certain time working at that load, the muscles become stronger because they get used to it, and then we increase that load again, and that's how we progress. Now, for individuals who have hypermobility, who already have like really low muscle tone because they find those simple things quite difficult, but people with poor coordination, that difficulty with introspection and figuring out how to do these things in a correct and safe manner, that progression needs to be a lot slower. We need to give that individual more time to process that that exercise, for the muscles to get used to that load. We need to give it a lot more time. So it needs to be gentle and it needs to progress really slowly. Now, all of those things is going to help with our approach to improve endurance as well. So say if we've got the strength in our muscles, fantastic. The next step is being able to do that more often and for longer periods. Like, we need to have enough strength and control to accomplish that task, but we also need the endurance to be able to do it, say, all day if we needed to. And again, we need to progress that slowly, slowly up the amount of time we're doing a specific exercise. Or say if we talk about the strength training side of things, trying to do 20 repetitions or 2 lots of 20 or 3 lots of 20 to up that endurance. The third area is improving proprioception. So what is proprioception exactly? It's the ability for our body, so our joints, to tell our brain what position it is in space. So if I was to close my eyes and someone was to move my finger around, with my eyes still closed, I know that my finger is down compared to the rest of them. So that's like a really basic explanation about proprioception. We need that information to be really accurate. So if it's inaccurate, that's when people roll their ankles a lot, or say in what we've been talking about tonight. If we've got poor proprioception, then we've got that decreased coordination. We bump into things, we trip over our feet, our toes, because we're not 100% sure, how much have we lifted our foot while we're walking. We haven't lifted it up quite far enough, so then we've tripped over our toes. So we need to improve proprioception as well. So those are the 3 sort of like main areas: strength training, improve our endurance, and improve proprioception. So the next difficult task is, how do we do that when, traditional therapy is like getting the TheraBand out, stretchy rubber band, resistance band, and, trying to pull it a certain number of times or lift a certain number of kilos, and how many times. What I found is a lot of individuals, kids, adults who are autistic, and you ask them to lift a weight, they just think, what do you mean lift a weight? I don't want to do this. What's the point of this? That's where we get into virtual reality, the new part of physio and what we do. Quickly, what is virtual reality? It's a computer-generated environment. So the VR headset that this gentleman is wearing, the computer on that headset is completely creating the environment around us. We can move and interact within this artificial world, and we do that with the headset and controllers. So within the controller and the headset, we've got sensors to gather the information on our movements. And that's when we use the different games, the different applications on our headset to assist. So our headset, our experience, we've got a lot of different things. For physiotherapy, we've got a few different games that focus on, upper limb range of motion, whole body strengthening, endurance, and coordination. So all of those things that I was talking about earlier. In addition to that, we've also got a application that focuses on education and pacing strategies for individuals who suffer from chronic pain. So our autistic adults who might have discovered that diagnosis later in life, and they've also found that they have that hypermobility and or EDS, and the low muscle tone and poor coordination. A lot of the time they've come to me and they've told me about their chronic pain. Like, it's been going on since they were a kid. It's been years. They constantly sublux their shoulder joint and it gets really sore, and they've felt it for years and years. And that's when an application like that is super helpful, because then we can tackle the beast that is chronic pain as well. In addition to the physio side of things, we've also got psychologists and occupational therapists at XR Health. So some examples of our games there is we've got like this really cool virtual art room. So our OTs might use it for like gross and fine motor skills, and then our psychologists will use it for art therapy, play therapy. And then we've got a whole host of other things like mindfulness, meditation, exposure therapy for people with like phobias, as well as games that help with cognition. So focusing on like short-term memory, maths, attention, executive functioning, that sort of thing. Okay, cool. So this is a little video that I've got for us that'll show a few of the different applications we have on the headset. Okay, let's see. Hopefully this is all working okay. All right, balloon blast. So this is that first one that I might use as a physio to help with upper limb range of motion, strengthening, and rehab in general. The cool thing about being able to use virtual reality and those sensors that I was talking about is I can get a good read on range of motion. So for example, one of the things that we measure in physio is how far can we reach up and move our shoulder in this range. And if you've been to a physio for a shoulder problem, we've got this, like, it's called a goniometer, which is quite funny, but it's a measuring tool where we check the angle in which we've moved. So it lines up with our trunk and then it lines up with our arm, and we check that angle. So with the VR headset, I can get that to 1 degree of accuracy every time and then track that range of motion, which is fantastic for me as a physio to be able to get all of that data. Let's see. So you see those little gray things? That's the things that inflate the balloons. Oops, sorry. That's the thing that inflates the balloons. Now, I can decide where those balloons appear. Is it just going to be a small square in the middle? Are we going for the like upper, lower ranges of motion? You know, do I want to just do the sides and work on crossing midline? Because something that's also common, but I haven't talked about too much, is crossing midline to help with all of these things. So the cool thing about our games is it's highly changeable and in like really small increments. I can decide how long it goes for, how quickly the balloons appear and disappear. So I can modify all those things and really start off with that gentle strengthening and endurance work, and then slowly change those parameters to make it a little bit more difficult at a you know, a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, whatever it takes for that person, and then slowly increase that. And it's really awesome to see the change of someone who could only handle like 5 1-minute games, and then by the end of us working together, they're able to do like multiple 5-minute games and handle it quite well. Okay, so I want to stick to mainly the physio applications and talk about them. But you're seeing some of our, you know, meditation, mindfulness, cognitive games that we've got on here. Okay, so color match. This is a boxing game, same sort of deal, where I can adjust, you know, how quickly the dots appear and disappear and how far away they are. So with color match and balloon blast, I'm working in a very specific range of motion so that I can try and prevent that hyperextension for those people with hypermobility. And then, if they're standing, rotating, punching, and slicing, popping balloons, they're also working on that core control. Now, the one that everyone loves that I want to show you is X Fitness, which is coming out right here. Excuse me. So this is a lot more intense compared to the other two that I just showed you. The good thing about this is there's a lot of different songs on this game. So if you've heard of Beat Saber, it's kind of similar in that it's a rhythm game. You have to perform these actions to the beat of music. And you have to remember a fair few different movements. A punch, an uppercut, a slice, a block, and see that red thing in the background there? You have to dodge underneath it. So you're working your legs. There's also another one where you have to lunge off to the side as well. And this is where I spend a lot of time with my clients that I work with. This is, fantastic for all of those things around strength, endurance, coordination, and, really upping the intensity and how many songs can you do in a row before you need a rest and get tired, that sort of thing. Excuse me. So before we get into that, so what is it about VR and playing these games, which is more of an advantage over traditional therapies? Because yes, like the reason why we have traditional physiotherapy is it works, right? We know in black and white, with this heaps of studies to back it up, we're doing this, specific strength training or this training is going to help with all of these different physical issues. Why is it that we do VR? And I touched on it earlier about a lot of individuals with autism don't see a point in doing that sort of exercise because they have no interest in it. Like, I would say 99% of the kids that I meet are already playing video games in one form or another, whether it be PlayStation, Xbox, computer, Switch, all of those things. And they spend hours and hours and hours on it. And, a lot of concerned parents might be thinking like, oh, how do I get my kids off of this technology? But using virtual reality, it's a piece of technology that's going to assist them in these areas, which is fantastic. And, playing these games, they're already used to it. They see a point to it. They understand it. They've already lived in this world for a number of years. So it makes sense to them. And because of that, we can keep a lot of kids and adults engaged and wanting to play these games, more often, more consistently. And with that consistency over time, that's how we're going to get those results. Working with kids and adults for 6 months, 12 months, whatever it might take, we're able to get those results. Keep them happy and entertained and wanting to do their physiotherapy, which is a huge challenge for everyone. And that's what's fantastic about virtual reality. Little quick bit about our referral process. So support coordinators, if we do have a form that you can fill out, and then our admin team contacts the client to arrange the appointment, and the client can get a bit more info from them, and we send off a service agreement. Once we get that back, that's when we get the initial assessment booked in, and that's a really important appointment because we want to make sure that whatever's going on with this person, what their goals are, can we achieve those goals over telehealth and with virtual reality? We want to make sure it's appropriate. And then the other thing is, is it safe to do so? So there are some like contraindications from a medical perspective that means that virtual reality isn't appropriate. So we want to check for all of those things. assuming we're all good past that first appointment, then our logistics team will send out the headset. Once you guys get the headset, there's a tutorial, the setup, and then we have our first VR session where we introduce those games and we try them out. And we find that level that we want to start with. And then, you can use the headset as much as you like in between, as well as all of those other applications that I was talking about. So while me as a physio, I'm going to focus on, boxing, popping balloons, X fitness. There are all those other applications that you can check out as well. So a little bit about our funding streams for our clients. We certainly see a lot of NDIS clients. At the moment, it's only self and plan managed. We also accept Medicare, so mental health care plans and chronic disease management plans, and of course, our privately paying clients. Awesome. So that was everything I wanted to cover off today. I left a good chunk of time for conversation and questions. So yeah, that on the screen is our email and phone number for further information, which Ben will certainly talk us through as
Lovely.
well.
Perfect. Thanks so much. We can get into some questions now. I've got a few here for you.
Cool.
One of them is, can we use the headset in our own time? Is
Yeah.
this something that the therapist dictates?
Yeah. So using it in your own time, certainly as much as you like. We also have a training plan that we get integrated into the VR headset. So I can basically set up a plan, are we going to do things every day, every second day, and decide on those settings as well. So you don't have to go in and play around with how long is it going to go for? How quick are the balloons going to come up? I can set all that up for you, and how many times you're going to play in a day, which days you're going to play it, and then have that in your training plan. And then outside of that training plan, like I said, you can go into those other applications and check them out.
Perfect. Awesome. If someone else in the same household wants to use the headsets, what do we do in that regard? Is that a problem, or should we probably not steer away from that?
Yeah, so we definitely want to steer away from that one
Mm,
because of like with that initial assessment when I was talking about contraindications and things, we want
yep.
to make sure that the people who use our headset and our games are safe to do so. But say if we've got I've had a multiple families as clients in the past, whether it be parents, siblings, all sharing the same headset. The way we do that is having multiple accounts for the family members, so that once you've signed in and you're playing those games, the statistics and the changes will be associated with that account. So
Yep.
each of you can sign in with different accounts and have your individualized statistics.
Beautiful. In regards to the data, I know you said you can track the data on your software. Are we able to track the data? So if we're using the software, is there any way that we can track the data while we use the headset?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got our XR Health mobile phone application as well. That's a really easy way to check your data, and it'll tell you that you've improved in speed by this percentage since the last time you played. We've also got our data portal for our clients where you can sign in and get more of a breakdown on all of those statistics and track all of that. And what's awesome is I can actually get graphs and everything, like line graphs, and show you how your reaction speed has changed, or how your smoothness and quality of movement has changed, and how that relates to you in a real world functional perspective.
Yeah,
And take a screenshot of that for any reports that might be required.
beautiful. In regards to when we're performing the actions, let's say, is there any way that someone else in our family can see what we're doing on the headset?
Hmm.
The common question we get.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got two ways that our families can cast what's going on the headset. One is the integrated casting feature, like casting to a TV, like
Mhm.
we would connect our phone to like Chromecast or anything. there's the ability for our VR headset to cast to certain TVs. A lot of TVs work. There are some that don't. And for those where the TVs don't work with the casting feature, there's also a like web page where you can log in with those same client credentials as the app and the headset,
Yeah.
and then you'll be able to cast it to your device on a browser.
Awesome. We've got some questions in the chat here. We'll start from the top. So Sarah is asking, is it only physio that's able to use the lightsaber? So the one with the balloon blast, is that only associated with physio?
Oh no. So I might use it for those reasons around, building strength and coordination, like we've talked about tonight. But our psychologists might use it to, test someone's focus or to get some energy out to then focus on the rest of the session. Our occupational therapists might use it to see how well you process information, and the executive functioning side of things there. So we might utilize like any of these same applications, but for very different reasons. Those were just a few of the ones that I commonly use for those common co-diagnoses we've talked about. But I'll use, like, we've got an application for breathing exercises, which might be more traditionally for psychology, but we might have clients with a lung issue and we want to focus on breathing exercises as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely use all of them.
Yeah. In regards to the headsets as an individual item, how much is it on its own? Is a question we've got from Sophia.
There's like a few different ways that it can be funded. So the most common way is when a client sees us and sees one of our services, whether it be physio, OT, psychology, on a weekly basis. So it might be alternating fortnights of physio and psychology. If you see one of our services, then the headset is free to use up until discharge, and then we just get the headset back. If it seemed to be more appropriate where you wanted to see one of our services fortnightly or less often, then there's a headset hire fee, which correct me if I'm wrong, is like $135 per month.
Correct, 135.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also the option of purchasing our headset, which Ben
I
is
believe
like,
that's 660 in total.
yeah, 660. So yeah, like in one of the previous slides, you can pay for that privately, or NDIS can fund that as well.
Yep. In regards to, we've got a question from Sarah again. She says, can you attend an organization as a practical demonstration to OT behavior support so they can recommend this in their plans?
Yeah, so we do online demos. So like this slide suggests, you can get in touch with us and ask for a demonstration, and we can give you that more in-depth run through on all of the different games and how they work. So yeah, reach out and we can have a chat and figure that out.
Awesome. Got Lolita here. Costs and how do we get NDIS funding allocated towards this?
Oh yeah, so I guess that would depend on which service you're after. So I think physio is billed under capacity building as a like first priority, and then there's the possibility of using core funding as well.
Yep.
So yeah, the sport coordinators will ask for like different line items and codes that they're after, which admin can give them.
Yeah, this is a really good one. We got Cal here. Do therapists work together with each other to improve outcomes? For
Yeah.
example, a physio and a psychologist.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the benefit of having like such a diverse team of clinicians, right? Is we can meet up and discuss our approach and what we have planned for a client. Whether it be about things to look out for from a physical perspective and letting the psychologist know, or combining our training plans so that we're not giving too much of one thing and it's a good mix and it's not too much.
Yeah.
as a whole. So yeah, absolutely. We work together to get those better outcomes. You know, we
Yeah.
want to have that client-centered approach within a team.
Yeah. Sarah again, I think I misunderstood her question. She said, thanks, but I asked about the one like Beat Saber, only being physio, not Balloon Blast.
Oh, okay. So the X Fitness game. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely very physiocentric, but I would say our occupational therapist would use that for a more like executive functioning reason, like how well can you process all of that information coming at you? Like I said, there's like six different things that you have to remember and process it quickly. Um, and how well can you do that? Yeah, so definitely can be used, and same with psychologists, might use it for that reason of say getting
Yeah.
energy out, and yeah, pretty much all of our clinicians might use any of the different applications for different reasons. And that's like the great thing about virtual reality is it's such a like flexible tool as well.
Mhm.
And we can use it to, however far our imagination can extend and apply within our like clinical approach. Sorry, I just had admin let me know a little bit more about NDIS and costing. So but all physio, psych, and OT is billed under capacity building, improved daily living. So that, yeah, the specific line item is physio or OT or psychology. So hopefully I've relayed that accurately. But yeah, if you wanted more info about that, definitely email or call in.
Yeah. No worries. So the next one I have here is just got a general one here from Karen at the start of the webinar. She asked, how does physiotherapy help adults with autism?
Definitely like all of those different things that I talked about around say the common co-diagnoses, and um also like that whole thing of traditional exercise a lot of the time not making sense for that person, or it does make sense, but they've tried it and they just, you might stick with it for like a week or two, and then you might feel better, you might not feel better, but you kind of stop for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Um, it's something new to try out, and hopefully will engage you as an adult as well, and keep you consistent. Keeping things easy on that platform, having the training plan, like you don't need to worry about like, oh, how many repetitions did I need to do? Like, am I doing this correctly? Like, we've got the game, we've got the settings. This is you just complete it. So yeah, absolutely can help adults with autism. And then while we've talked a lot about virtual reality, like I said, it's a tool, it's a major tool that I like to use in my clinical approach. And then I sprinkle in some of the traditional stuff as well, absolutely, because there's still absolutely a place for the traditional physiotherapy, and we sort of decide when to introduce that and pop that in.
Yeah. What I find speaking to a lot of the people on the phone is they've tried the face to face, just didn't work, whether it's engagement, whether it's just not connecting, and they're
Mm.
looking for something else. I feel like that is a very common scenario that you're faced with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's an interesting like brain chemistry kind of thing as well. Like it's something new, it's something exciting. You're
Yeah.
getting a lot of like rush of like endorphins, and it's enjoyable, and then you keep coming back for it.
Yeah. Got one from EJ here. Are you able to provide or share any sources, links for peer-reviewed research which support physiotherapy for autistic people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There'd be like a lot for physio for autistic people. Please email us, and we can sort of figure out like what specifically that you might be after, and we can send you some links. Absolutely.
In regards to that as well, we do have research articles at the bottom of our website. So you can just scroll down to xrhealth.com.au, and there's just a little research tab at the bottom, which has all of the articles that we have as well. We've got EJ here again. Do you only work with NDIS clients?
Oh no, definitely not. We've got like I said, private clients, people accessing Medicare, with CDMs and mental health care plans.
Yep.
Yeah.
No worries. So we've got Lolita again, and she says costs and how do we get NDIS funding allocated towards this?
Um, Ben, would you have the numbers on the top off the top of your head?
Yep. So for physiotherapy, I've got the paper here actually. So the initial consultation and the initial consultation and the first session after that is $193.99, and that goes for 1 hour. And then every subsequent session is 45 minutes, and that is $145. So the first two sessions, including the initial 1 hour, and then it drops down to 45 minutes per session. And the NDIS funding allocated towards this, it's essentially the capacity building, improved daily living, as Tung said. Got here, Natalie. Do these apps, I assume, help with ADHD?
Yeah, we actually do have a couple. Well, one that is definitely specifically designed to help improve someone's attention and focus on like that specific task. But certainly, like if you're seeing one of our clinicians who work more with individuals with ADHD, they might utilize any of these applications for that specific purpose. Like, can you hold your attention playing this other specific game? And something that is also interesting is like some of our statistics. One is impulsivity. So
Mm,
say the boxing game with impulsivity, it's measuring how quickly do you want to just like go for it and not think about what color the dot is and match the boxing glove, but then like do you pull back and then like actually process it properly and then hit it? So we can actually assign like a number to that impulsivity and then track that and how it changes. So that can certainly benefit those with ADHD as well.
yeah. We have Donna here. Donna says, I am interested in the application for building executive functioning. Can you explain how that would work?
I guess it would depend on like your specific area that you want to work on and like what level you're at the moment. So one of them is called Koji's Quest, and you can work on like spatial awareness and problem solving. There's a different game in Koji's Quest that will work more on like basic like mathematics, numeracy, and literacy. So I guess it would sort of depend on that specific area and what you wanted to work on. But that's also a question probably better answered by one of our OTs. So I think we'll just make a note of your question
Yeah,
and get back to you, Donna, if that's all right.
yeah, no worries. Um, Lolita asks, what is the waitlist and collaboration approach for your team? As a multiple therapists every week is a great idea to get the VR machine free. So I assume
Um, yeah,
she's
I guess.
asking, yeah,
Sorry, you go.
what is the waitlist approach? I assume asking for multiple therapies at the same time. Um, we do have,
The wait list, I'm not too sure what the wait list is. I guess it would depend on which particular therapies you're after.
yeah, so with the wait list, the OT point of view is a little bit hit or miss. So OT might be a bit of a struggle, however, shouldn't be a problem. Psychology and physio should also not be a problem as well in regards to wait lists.
Yeah, and I think it would just depend on like what days and
Yeah,
times you are after and the availabilities of our clinicians and like which clinicians that you might have wanted to see. Like
yeah,
we've got our clinician profiles on our website, so you can sort of check out um, everyone's sort of little personalities and see
mm,
what might gel the most.
yeah. We have Raylene here. Can it help with fine motor
Yeah, I
movement?
think again, question better for one of our OTs, but I think we like our art room, I think would be really great just because like within the art room there's this 3D space and you can manipulate it to be really zoomed out or zoomed in. And I haven't tried it myself. I'll have to ask one of our OTs, but instead of say like painting with broad strokes, potentially like using the controller like a really chunky pen and then working on those like fine motor skills or even needing to like navigate through the menu like sometimes you just point like this, but then other times you might use the little thumbstick
Mhm.
to move things around. So yeah, potentially. And I think it'll again depend on your individual situation. Like, is your specific issue with fine motor skills, can we achieve your goals with our VR headset? We kind of just need to meet you and figure that out together.
Yeah. In regards to the previous question about the wait list, I just want to let everyone know, we do have availability and clinical capacity on the weekends. So 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So a lot of times, a lot of people just think weekdays it won't be really suitable for me, but we do have availability on the weekends as well. So yeah, very beneficial in that regard. Um, the next one here, Karen here says, I've always had hypermobility, but didn't realize that it was associated with autism. Now that I'm older, I'm finding that chronic pain involved with the hypermobile joints is catching up with me.
Yeah. Like I said, like it's such a common thing that I've seen lately. And I think it's just because um we are getting, more emerging research, and like we're seeing the link, we're seeing the correlation. We don't quite know the causation yet. Like, is it genetics? But we're seeing more of it. We're understanding it a little bit more, like year by year kind of thing. And you're right, like a lot of adults like yourself, Karen, have that chronic pain because of the hypermobile joints. And what I guess the main thing to know is it's never too late to try and get on top of it. While hypermobility is quite common, while chronic pain is quite common, it's not something you have to live with, right? So I think it just takes finding the right person to work with you, and the right approach for you and your body, and see how better we can get.
Definitely, definitely. We've got here one from Natalie. She asks, "What is the cost if you have a mental health care plan?" So with
Ooh,
this
yeah.
one, I don't have the exact sense to the sense, but I can tell you the Medicare rebate is approximately $93, and the entire psychology session is 214. So it's around 120 out of pocket. But then it comes down to the sense, which we can definitely follow up with you on, Natalie, in regards to total exact fees. But yeah, it's approximately 120 out of pocket for the mental health care plan. Um, Lolita asking in regard to her previous question about collaborating with other therapists. So she's asking for three therapists a week. So is that something that could be done?
Yes, it could be done. I would just advise looking into like your like finances, like if you're
Mm,
paying privately, as well as what your plan can fund, because it's a lot. Like 3 therapies a week is a lot. One from a financial standpoint, but even from a like energy standpoint, like mental capacity, physical capacity, it's a lot, right? Like psychology is, I think, 50 minutes ish. OT could be an hour. There's like note writing time and stuff, but and then physio 45 minutes. Like doing that every week could be a lot. I think, you know, doing it alternating, or like, physio 1 week, OT 1 week, psych 1 week, and then just keep on cycling through like that is a more sustainable way of doing it. And then, like I said, from a physio perspective, the approach is going to be taking things a little bit slower and more gentle. So while weekly is fantastic, it's not entirely necessary, especially if you're seeing multiple therapies.
Yeah. Just in regards to that question, I've been told by the admin team that we do have um, some people that choose to do three therapies a week, so Monday,
Mhm.
Wednesday, Friday. But then I just saw her follow up, and she was just a misinterpretation, and she was asking for a different therapist a week, so three therapists over 3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's cool.
yeah. So Raylene asked, does it have to be weekly?
No, so we certainly have clients who see us like one of our services fortnightly or
Yep,
monthly. There's just the headset hire fee that is like 135 per month.
yep. Karen here asks again. Sorry, I left the question off. Can this help even though I'm older and my joints are possibly degenerating?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the the approach is like we just look at you as an individual, like how your joints are. We assess you like we would any like in any other traditional brick and mortar physio, and we just see, what are the things that we need to work on, and then we figure out how we're going to achieve that. So we want to know like, can we achieve that with VR? Do we need to focus like more on VR? Do we need to focus less on VR? We just need to figure it out for you, Karen. But absolutely, like at any level of function, there's going to be an exercise that you can do that is going to help. We just need to figure out what it is.
Yeah. Got the last couple here. Raylene asks again, help with hypermobility of hands.
That's a tricky one. I think we'll have to get back to you. I might ask our OT Tim, who has specialized in hand therapy. So I think we'll get back to you, Raylene, on that one.
Yep, no problem at all. And we have here, is this all via telehealth or has it to be face to face for initial analysis?
All via telehealth. So a lot of people might think like, oh, how are you going to make those assessments, without being in person? And that's with the help of one, fantastic observational skills as a clinician. That's number one. Number two, our headset is going to help us a lot. Like I said, with balloon blast, being able to check range of motion and things. And all of the like little tests that we might do as a physio, we can instruct you on how to do them over telehealth. So yeah, we actually don't have any face-to-face. It's all telehealth, but
Yep,
it's really good. It means that people who are remote can access our services as well, which is great. Got people
that
all over Australia and some international as well, our clinicians.
beautiful. I think that is all the questions. We've got a couple more here in the chat actually. Can I try one before making recommendation? I'm happy to visit your office in Victoria to know more if possible. Uh,
I think reach out to us so we can
yeah,
get to know a little bit more about your situation and what you're after, and we can sort of figure it out from there.
yeah. We've got the last couple here from Cal. Are your practitioners neuroaffirming?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've spent a lot of time going through some learning on being neuroaffirming. So that's really important to us, especially working with this clientele. I think it's really important that all our clinicians have um, done this extra learning and taken on this approach. So absolutely.
Yeah. Do you, Cal also asked, do you have physiotherapist experience with lipodema?
Lipedema.
Lipodema.
Yeah. So I'll have to check in with our other physios, see who might have more experience.
Mhm.
So I'll have to get back to you on that, Kel.
Yep. And the last one here is from Sarah. Is capacity building daily living the only funding category you can claim from?
Would you have the info on that, Ben?
So essentially, core can be played around with to allow it to be taken from core, and also the headset high fee. So if you wear fortnightly, that can be taken from consumables. So yeah, also from there. Um, the last one here, Karen asks, where are you located? Is it in Melbourne? So we are located all across Australia. However, mainly we're in Melbourne. And yeah, it doesn't really matter considering all the sessions are via telehealth.
Mm. I'm in Canberra, like
Yes.
as an example. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. That is all the questions we've had for today. Did you have anything else to say, Tom?
No, just thank you for taking the time out of your evening to join us. Look forward to the next one.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure who's going to present or on what, but look out for it. Yeah, thanks everyone.
beautiful. And if there were any questions that we didn't get to, we will be getting in touch with you. And also, if you do have any further questions that come to your mind, you can just email us at the email you see on screen or the number you see at the bottom. You can just give us a call. We'll be happy to help you. And yeah, like you said, we'll see you in our next webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope everyone has a lovely day and we will see you soon. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Bye, everyone.